quickly go below in the comments below. Comment that you're number one, you're the first one. This is day one, second one of Headstone Chronicles. So, if you're the first person here, I greet you. My name is John. Welcome everybody. Be within the first 100 people to ever see this video of day one, second one of our videos. Investigation of the people who were before. But you see a name on a tombstone. Could be anybody. Let's take a look at today's very first Headstone Chronicles. Karyn Kupcinet, born Rebecca Lynn Kupcinet, March 6, 1941. Died November 28, 1963. Murdered. Her friends and family called her Cookie. She was an American stage, film, and television actress. She was the daughter of Chicago newspaper columnist and television personality Irv Kupcinet, and the sister of television director and producer Jerry Kupcinet. Karyn Kupcinet had a brief acting career during the early 1960s, 6 days after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Her body was found at her home in West Hollywood, California, with her death officially ruled as an unsolved homicide. And occurring so close to the assassination, her name became one of the hundreds added to the multiplicity of theories that emerged after the assassination. It is said that she had made an urgent long-distance telephone call, and while on hold, the operator heard her scream, "They're going to kill the president." So naturally they considered it a conspiracy theory. But the operator says she heard her. Bring it to the interest of the people who investigate assassinations. Kupcinet's father publicly dismissed the theories linking his daughter to the president's death, saying in an interview, "It's an outrageous outrage." She was born in Chicago, Illinois. In 1961, Jerry Lewis offered Kupcinet a role in the film The Ladies' Man, where she appeared in a bit part as one of dozens of ladies.
I never saw so many girls. There's a whole bunch of them. I got...
Harry! Now, you listen to me. You go into that dining room in there and...
Oh, Catherine, Miss Wellermelon wanted me to tell you that Herbie is to have...
Herbert? Herbert? Herbert, H-E-R-B-R-T is Herbert. How do you spell Herbert? Not Y, Herbie. It's Herbert. Bert. Bert. Call me Bert. Just not a Herbie. Herbert.
That Herbert is to have his breakfast.
I'll see to it. I was telling Miss...
In 1962, she appeared in the role of Annie Sullivan in a Laguna Beach Summer Theater production of The Miracle Worker. She also appeared in guest roles on television, including The Donna Reed Show, The Wild Country, The Andy Griffith Show, Death Valley Days, as well as having a regular role in the primetime series Mrs. G Goes to College. Her last on-screen performance was on Perry Mason, in the role of Penny Ames, in an episode entitled The Case of the Capering Camera, which aired on CBS January 16, 1964, nearly 2 months after her death. In December 1962, she filmed a guest star appearance on The Wild Country and had her first meeting with one of the series' stars, Andrew Prine, and soon began dating him. However, the relationship was problematic due to Karyn wanting to make the relationship exclusive. Prine was newly divorced and was dating other people. After Kupcinet underwent an alleged abortion in July of 1963, the relationship cooled, and Prine continued dating other women. In return, she began spying on Prine. One afternoon, upon returning to his residence with his girlfriend, they heard noises in the attic and called the police. The authorities discovered Karyn Kupcinet in the attic, stalking Prine and his girlfriend. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department later determined that Kupcinet had delivered threatening and profane messages consisting of words and letters she had cut out from a magazine to Prine. When Prine told her by telephone about anonymous messages, she had said that she received them as well. They met to show the messages to each other. She seemed puzzled. Soon after her death, investigators of the Sheriff's Department found her fingerprints on the papers and the Scotch tape. The pressure to stay thin intensified after Kupcinet arrived in Hollywood, and she soon began abusing diet pills along with other prescription drugs. The curious death of Karyn Kupcinet. On November 28, 1963, Kupcinet had dinner with future Lost in Space cast member Mark Goddard at their house on Coldwater Canyon Drive in Beverly Hills. The Lost in Space actor expected her to arrive by 6:30 p.m., but showed up in a taxicab an hour late. The couple reported that Kupcinet only toyed with her food during the meal and avoided eating. They told the county sheriff deputies that her lips seemed numb. Her voice was funny. She moved her head at odd angles. Also noticed that Cookie's pupils were constricted. When the actor from Lost in Space, Mark Goddard, confronted Cookie about her behavior, she began to cry and put her arms around him. At one point during the meal, she told an unsubstantiated story about a baby that had been aborted on her doorstep earlier that day. At 8:30 p.m., a taxicab arrived and took her home, and she promised to telephone when she arrived. Kupcinet apparently went straight home after the dinner. She was visited by freelance writer Edward Rubin shortly afterward. The two were then joined by actor Robert Hathaway right around 9:30 p.m. Rubin and Hathaway told the detectives the three of them watched television, including the Danny Kaye Show, and drank coffee until Kupcinet fell asleep next to them on the couch. She later awoke and went to her bedroom. Rubin and Hathaway either turned the television off or simply lowered the volume. 3 days later, it was still playing with a low volume, and they said they made sure that the door was locked behind them before departing at 11:15. Hathaway said the two men returned to his place and were later joined by Prine, who was also Hathaway's neighbor. The trio watched television and talked until 3 a.m. The Goddards went to Kupcinet's apartment on November 30th after she had failed to telephone, as she promised. Mark later stated that he had a funny feeling that something was wrong. Upon entering the apartment, the couple found Kupcinet's nude body lying on the couch. Mark walked in. She called out her name many times and found her body on the couch, totally nude. Mark initially assumed that she had died from a drug overdose. Upon searching the apartment, investigators from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department found prescription drugs and also found a note written by Kupcinet that reflected in some detail her emotions regarding issues in her life and people she admired. The coroner concluded due to the fracture of the hyoid bone in her throat, she had been strangled, so her death was officially ruled a homicide. After research, the police determined there was no baby abandoned anywhere, that she had actually gone and got an abortion. When questioned by law enforcement, Andrew Prine reported talking to Kupcinet by phone during the day on Wednesday, and others in the Hollywood community were questioned, as well as Rubin and Hathaway, the two men who had possibly been the very last to see her alive, and who were friends of Prine's. They were also eventually named as suspects. Cookie's father published a memoir in which he revealed that he and his wife believed that Prine had nothing to do with it. He was suspicious of a person still alive when he had wrote that memoir. who had no connection to Prine. Although public suspicion did fall on Prine, there was a more compelling suspect to Carolyn's parents. That evidence, according to her parents, pointed to another actor-producer, David Lang. Her mother and father thought it pointed directly to David Lang, who had been a friend of Cookie's. But he was best known in Hollywood as a very heavy drinker, a hanger-on, and a gopher. One day he told Cookie he was looking for an apartment and asked if she knew of anything available. She inquired in her own building and learned an apartment was vacant. It was on the very first floor, and he moved in. Cookie lived on the second floor. This juxtaposition became important on the night that her body was found. Lang's behavior that night made her father very suspicious. He was in the bedroom of his apartment with his girlfriend, who later told police they heard some sort of commotion outside of the apartment, and it sounded like a lot of people were running up and down stairs. Lang, she said, ignored the excitement and did not leave the bedroom to see what was happening. She also added, a short time later, someone knocked at the door. He answered it, she said, and came right back to the bedroom and made no comment. Police suspect that the unidentified caller had informed him of Caroline's death, but he chose not to appear on the scene because he had already knew what had happened. That enabled him to stay clear of the authorities. If that behavior was suspected, there also was a confession. The police report includes a statement from a friend of Lang who reported that he told her that he was the person who killed her. Karyn's mother pressed the sheriff's police to pursue such a revealing statement, but their response was that they had tried with no success because Lang by this time had moved into the house of his sister, and she had retained an attorney who refused to let him be questioned. The police subjected Lang to a polygraph test, which proved inconclusive, and no follow-up was done. Kupcinet's death was first mentioned in conjunction with the John F. Kennedy assassination in 1967 by researcher Penn Jones, Jr. in the self-published book Forgive My Grief Too. Jones cited an Associated Press wire service story about an unidentified woman who placed a phone call from the vicinity of Oxford, California, about 50 miles northwest of Los Angeles, 20 minutes before the assassination occurred in Dallas, Texas, claiming that this girl was Kupcinet. Jones alleged that Karyn Kupcinet had attempted to warn somebody of the impending assassination after being given this information by her father, who himself had allegedly been given this advance notice by Jack Ruby himself, the Dallas nightclub owner who fatally shot Lee Harvey Oswald. Jones speculated Karyn had been murdered by representatives of the Italian-American mafia as a message to her father to remain silent about why Kennedy and Oswald had been shot. Herb Kupcinet denied that he or his daughter had prior knowledge of the assassination or of Oswald's death. This was supported by Kupcinet's friends, including Prine, actor Earl Holliman, and Holliman's then-girlfriend, all of whom traveled to Palm Springs. Kupcinet reportedly seemed upset about media coverage of the shooting while in Palm Springs. He did not reveal any fourth knowledge of the event. The star claimed that the two telephone call operators with General Telephone Company who listened to the unknown woman gave the FBI a description of her voice. The FBI agent questioned the two operators several hours after the assassination. Their description of the woman's voice did not match Kupcinet's, especially in regards to her age. The star added that two operators believed that the woman on the phone was mentally disturbed, in fact. So mentally disturbed, I might add, that she did predict the death of a president. Regarding her father's alleged connection to Jack Ruby, the Warren Commission did not find any proof that her father had interacted with Jack Ruby in Chicago before 1947, when Ruby moved from Chicago to Dallas. Kupcinet's death occurred 6 days after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, as rumors and theories were swirling around about possible mafia involvement. That the Chicago Syndicate and Sam Giancana were a part of it due to Kennedy administration's tough stance on organized crime. An important thing to know is her father, Irv Kupcinet, had been friends with Sam Giancana, Tony Ocado, and other mob dons for decades. As such, it isn't surprising that conspiracy theories surfaced linking the two events. Still seems fishy to me. It didn't help matters that her father turned up at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office with an old friend, mafia lawyer, fixer Sidney Korshak, representing him, also handling the release of his daughter's remains for burial. Of course, it raised law enforcement's eyebrows as it did conspiracy theorists. That very lawyer's other clients include Al Capone, Sam Giancana, Mo Dalitz, Jimmy Hoffa, thus causing a frenzy of speculation around Karyn's death. And there you have it. The dad was absolutely involved with mafia dons and mafia people and mafia lawyers. Draw your own conclusions, please. My opinions are my opinions only. What do you think? Type it below. What do you think really happened? But that crazy old woman predicted the death of a president 20 minutes before it happened. And her father being so heavily involved with mafioso people, you gotta wonder. I say that this whole video is an alleged statement. Allegedly guilty. She was only 22. And there it is. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you'll come back and see us. Don't forget, right below here, right below the video window, there's a button that says share. Let's take this very first day, very first second video, okay, and help it go into the future. You will be one of the very first people to have seen the very first video. Thank you in advance. We do have a tip jar below in the description area, and I do thank you in advance if you feel led to do so. Buy us a cup of coffee to help us continue forward with the song. Thanks for stopping in. I hope to see you again on the next video of Headstone Chronicles.